Welcome to the Tomatoes, Toddlers, and Tangents podcast. My name is Lauren, and this is a safe place for a little bit of toddler craziness and garden love. Around here, the garden is a little wild. The toddlers are sort of loud, and we just are taking it one day at a time, and that's okay. So I wanted to start a little bit with a what's up in the garden sort of introduction here. Right now, we are still in the process of de-weeding the summer garden because it got a little bit overgrown in my neglect, and trying to get through harvesting all the rest of the summer crops. It's the end of August, so... Yes, Blaine? You gotta go around the mower. So we're right at the end of the summer garden and trying to get everything out of there. Come about September, we'll start planting a few of our fall garden things. We're not going to do a huge fall garden, just get some fresh eating type stuff, mainly some lettuce, maybe some carrots, a couple things like that. But yeah, our garden is basically weeds and dead things. So we're trying to get that turned over before it gets too much later and we lose what little we have left. And if you're hearing strange car noises in the back of this podcast, toddler life. So Blaine is currently driving himself and Ridian around in their little power car. And he thinks it's the best thing. You just drive circles. And why not, right? So speaking of weeds in the garden, I just wanted to sort of expound a bit, go on a tangent, if you will, on weeds and children, which is weird, but hear me out. So weeds are a constant thing to deal with. It is a never-ending, one day at a time, keep on moving forward. Weeds in laundry, right? Laundry's like this. You never actually catch up on laundry despite the fact that you just did everything in your house. Because you're always wearing dirty clothes, right? Weeds are like that. They're always growing, no matter what is still going on. And to some extent, parenting is like that. You never turn off being a parent. You're always on dealing, as long as your children are around, you're a parent. And sometimes even when they're not around, you're the parent because you're dealing with all the peripheral things that come with having small children. So in our garden, most of what we've got for weeds is grass because we reclaimed our garden from a pasture. Most of the weeds in there are grass and grass adjacent type weeds, the same weeds that we had in the pasture. In the pasture, we've chosen to just not care. But in the garden, we are trying to continually pull our weeds. Last time I went into the garden to pull weeds, my son decided to drive his little car into the garden because we don't have the fence all the way up yet. That was fun. He knocked over the sunflower plant. And sunflower stalks are like, this one was like 2 inches around. Thank goodness it was mostly dead anyway. But he threw a little bit of a frustration because he couldn't get back out. He's just learning how to use that reverse portion of his little car so that he can get himself out of situations. That's been fun to see because he's only learned that in the last couple weeks. He's growing, he's learning, and that persistence is paying off. I show him how to put it in reverse and pull it out every time he gets in a situation, and now he's starting to do it on his own. Weeds are the same way, right? You pull them, and eventually, if you're maintaining your garden right, you end up with less. I have not seen that day yet. Maybe that's like having teenagers. You know it's coming, but it seems so far away right now for me. So another thing that weeds are like is like worries. And this reminds me of a really old veggie tale. Do you remember the veggie tales about the rumor weed? And the rumor weed kept popping up and telling rumors and growing every time somebody else told the same rumor. Well, weeds are like that in worries. So rumors are like that, but we can't control what other people do. But worries. Weeds and worries. They are so persistent and consistent, and we keep coming back over and over and over again. And worries, sort of like weeds to some extent, we can control a little bit with how we respond to them and what we do. So I don't use pesticides in my garden, herbicides or whatever, to control weeds. I guess that's technically herbicides, not pesticides for weeds. But as a downside of not using the herbicides, I have to physically go pull weeds to get rid of them. And that's kind of like those insidious thoughts in our brain of the worries that just keep coming back. And there's nothing really you don't feel capable of doing anything about it except pulling them one at a time over and over and over again. Whether it's worry for my children or for our finances or for our livestock or for my children, which seems to be a big one, or my husband, or again, my children. I mean, I have 2 boys. Blaine is 2.5 and has been to the urgent care twice to get stitches on 2 separate occasions. And at this point, every time he climbs something, there's always that like back in your brain thing that says, he's gonna fall and we're gonna go get more stitches. And eventually that might happen. I feel like we're on a 1-a-year plan. Hopefully Ridian does not follow in those footsteps, but he could. He's a little boy. They're supposed to be a little wild and crazy. We've actually encouraged that wild and crazy to some extent because it's what helps him grow in confidence. It's what helps him learn that he can do hard things. But it doesn't stop that niggling thought in the back of your head. It's like, but what if he falls? I guess for me, that's what worry is like. My mom used to say worry is like a rocking chair, gives you something to do, but doesn't really get you anywhere. And that's exactly it. Worry, according biblically, just steals the joy from tomorrow. It doesn't gain anything to today. But it's a constant battle of choosing joy, of choosing adventure, of choosing a little bit of risky play in order for growth. And for Blaine, sometimes that's easy to see. I can encourage him to drive his little car and learn how to reverse it. I can encourage him to climb within reason the things that are designed to be climbed, right? I can encourage him to try and run and play. But what about me? What am I encouraging myself to do that's a little bit risky so that I can learn and grow? For me, the worries go deep and beyond just the children. Did I preserve enough food? I know I didn't. So what are we going to do? Did we put up enough hay for the cows? How are we going to pay for animal feed? Did I get in enough hours at my job? All of these things that I just are in the back of my head. Why can't I keep my house clean? And let's not even go there. The house is always a wreck. But we're slowly pulling through it. We never got completely unpacked from our move about a year ago. So, because I was very pregnant when we moved in. And so at this point, now that we've sort of come out of the crazy of summer, our fall and winter plan is to get our house in order, to start at our center and move out, right? We sort of jumped into the deep end with our homestead, so how are we going to get our cows butchered? Brian wants to learn to deer hunt this fall. We've got a lot of family events coming up in the next couple months and commitments that we have to keep. And yes, Brian would like to learn to deer hunt. How are we going to fit that into our schedule that's so packed with commitments? How are we going to learn to field dress a deer and process a deer? And do we have the equipment that we need? Do we have the right knives and the right space in the freezer? And we're going to make ground whatever. Do we have a grinder? Do we have all of these things? And I can start to see why they say that homesteading is something it costs so much to get into. I mean, I can see why in the long run it would save money, but at the beginning it feels so overwhelming, all the things that you need. And we're trying to learn to cut corners with not cut corners, but do things without as much fancy equipment, which is why our garden has so many weeds in it, because we don't, a friend of ours helped us till it, but that's all that happened. Everything else Brian and I did with our hands and a shovel. Like, I mean, we put some cardboard and some wood chips down, but again, shovel and a bucket. Like, we don't even have a wheelbarrow to make that process easy. Brian shoveled it into a bucket, carried 2 5-gallon buckets, dumped it out, and went back and did it again, over and over and over again. And that's how we got our garden. I mean, even our garden fence is 4 foot T-post driven in a foot, so it's only 3 feet out of the ground. The wire mesh fence is 5 feet to get it high enough because we were afraid of deer. And we pulled it tight by hand. Like, this is not a animal rated fence. It's just a barrier, because that's all. I mean, we don't have a tractor. We couldn't pull it tight, or a truck. We don't even have a pickup truck. I just feel like these worries and concerns are adding up, and they're taking this enormous amount of brain space that I could be dedicating to something else. And that's the same with the weeds. They're taking the space and the nutrients that could be dedicated to something else. And the only way to get rid of them is to go in there one by one and pull them out. In our case, by hand or with a little hoe. I mean, that's all we got. One by one, or handful by handful. And that's what, when those worries keep popping up in my brain, that's what I have to tell myself is, this is a worry that I can do nothing about right now. And so I am going to fold it up, put it on the mental shelf. It's not to say it's not important, but I can only deal with so much at a time. And right now, that is not something that I can deal with. Put it on the to-do list if it needs to be, if it's a to-do thing. Put it on, I mean, I have lists out my ears. Put it on whatever list it needs to go on so that it's not forgotten. And my brain can sort of say, not right now. I've pulled that one and put it in the compost bin so it can continue to help enrich our lives and not take away from it. So the follow-up to that is sort of what we do about it now. We can put it in the mental box. But some worries, just like some weeds, are really not worth even dealing with. Just let it go. It doesn't belong on your to-do list. It doesn't belong on your wish list. Maybe it just belongs in the trash. And that's okay to just let it go. Some of the weeds you pull, some of them go into your compost. Some of them you don't want back in your compost, because then it comes back into your garden and you get rid of those. And some of them you don't worry about for now because they're so small they don't matter. I think the other important thing to recognize is that sometimes it's okay to just walk away and let the weeds lie. I've been telling you now for 2 weeks now that our garden is a weedy wreck, because I can't get to it all at one time. And there are whole days where I don't get out there at all because, one, I'm not in the habit, and that's on me. I'm trying to get better at that. Some days it's okay to rest, and it's okay to realize that it's not what you thought it was going to be. Both parenting and the garden. That doesn't make it less beautiful. It doesn't make it less enjoyable. I mean, some days I go on a walk with my sons, or follow them around as they drive in the little car, or we go upstairs and we play in the ball pit, or whatever it is that they want to do that day. Blaine is in a phase where he loves reading books. I want to encourage those things. I want to encourage his love of learning and his enjoyment in life. I want to encourage his play and his exploration. And sometimes that means that I don't get to do the things that I thought were the most important that day. Because when we come down to it, they weren't the most important. My boys were more important than pulling weeds some days. Now, that doesn't mean that I spent my entire day playing with them and never get anything done. Because that, Lord knows, that would not work, right? Some days they tag along with me and they do with me whatever I need to get done that day. We cook, or we run errands, or whatever it is. And there's a balance here of pouring in to my children, pouring into my garden and to my home. And I'm not telling you that I have it all figured out, because like I said, we're still trying to figure out how to get everything out of boxes in our house. But we're learning, and we're moving forward, and we're making memories that we won't forget. And we have a garden, which is better than we had last year. So I just want to end this with some encouragement. Yes, the worries are like the weeds, and they will never leave you alone. But maybe the joys of parenting are a bit like that too, if we stop and watch for them. So as we close this episode, I just want to reach out to you and let you tell me, what is it that are the weeds of your life? I mean, literal garden weeds, what are you struggling with? Or those worries that won't leave you alone? Or, to keep it lighthearted, give me a funny story from one of your kids. I mean, you've heard all the crazies about mine. Let's get to know each other. So leave me a comment about whatever it is that's a weed in your life. And until next time, keep on growing, even if it's messy. Can you say bye?
Bye.
Can you say tomatoes?
Bye.